This FedGov Today program is sponsored by Udemy and Carahsoft. On this edition of FedGov Today, the Defense Health Agency goes all in on going AI first. The never-ending effort to build an AI-literate workforce. And the NRC takes a big chunk out of one of its core functions. Welcome to FedGov Today in Washington, D.C. and around the world on the American Forces Network. I'm Francis Rose. Implementation's underway at the Defense Health Agency for its data strategy for fiscal years 2026 to 2030. The agency says it's aligning its efforts to a department-wide call to become AI-first organizations. Jesus Caban is Chief Data and Analytics Officer at DHA. Jesus, welcome back. It's great to have you on the program again. What does that alignment effort look like, aligning to be an AI-first organization at DHA?
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much for the invitation. And yes, we have seen from last year multiple executive order, the AI action plan for the United States. And more importantly for me is earlier this year, the release of the Department of War AI strategy, that we must become an AI-first organization. This is important for our national security. This is important to win the race. So that also applies, like the memo says, applies to every component of the department, including health. So as the Chief Data Analytics Officer for the agency, for me is what are we doing across the agency to meet that demand, to become an AI-first organization? And everything starts with the data. So this is why early this year, soon after that AI strategy was released, we also released, nested under that, the DHA data strategy. The data strategy, we are a combat support agency. So how are we delivering the data to our warfighters to win the war? So the data is critical because we can talk about all the AI efforts we're doing, but if the data is not flowing correctly, if there are issues with the data, with the quality, if there misunderstanding about the meaning of the data, then we're not supporting our commanders out there in the field to win the war. So even in the health space, we have the responsibility to deliver that data in a quality, secure, patient privacy as well, keeping it, but at the same time, we need to deliver it to the commanders out there so they can win the war.
I imagine you have the same issues that other organizations in government have, that you're combining legacy data that may be unstructured with data that you're collecting now in a much more structured fashion. What's that merger effort look like that you can then ascertain, as you just described, the data quality that you're presenting to other parts of the organization?
Absolutely. Across the Defense Health Agency, we have over 100 different systems. One of them is the EHR, the MHS Genesis, the electronic medical record. However, we have systems that are used in operational medicine at the point of injury, systems that are used for the exchange data with TRICARE. So we have 100 plus systems, data scattered everywhere. So this is why we released the DHA data strategy, to be able to set a framework with our different data stewards, with our different IT custodians, with our different data domain owners, to say this is the framework that we must follow now and we will follow next year and the next 5 years, to be able to make sure that our data, or that we mature in our data quality and data delivery.
What are the lines of effort that you're undertaking to get after that, Jesus?
So first, we are doing governance, meaning roles and responsibilities, to make sure who is accountable for a specific piece of information and data across the agency. We have 47 medical centers. We have 550 plus clinics around the world. We have a workforce over 150,000 individuals and professionals. So what are the roles and responsibilities of all of us? It's not only headquarters that will fix the data. It's from scheduling a patient to talking to a patient in the front desk, all the way to the providers, all the way to the commanders, all the way to the headquarters. We need to be able to know what is our responsibility, what are our roles in making sure the data is available, in making sure the data is accessible to others.
How much are you able to learn from other organizations in the department that are maybe not even health-based organizations to help you do what you need to do data-wise?
Absolutely. During the last year, it has been fantastic because the Pentagon CDAO, the Chief Digital and AI Office, they have this council that brings together all the CDAOs of the Pentagon, the components of the Pentagons. There is when we use the opportunity to discuss what Air Force is doing, what Army is doing, what are we doing in DLA and other agencies. So we share information, we share lessons learned. That way, while they might not be in the healthcare space, their lessons learned apply to me, apply to the defense of agency. The same, I share our lessons learned so they can learn about how we're moving at the speed of relevance as a combat support agency to deliver the data that is needed.
Do you find in those exchanges that the challenges, issues you're trying to work through are similar or maybe the same as what other organizations in the department are trying to figure out?
Yes, for sure. Data quality, data access, data security, those are common issues across every part of the agency. So being able to share lessons learned help all of us at the same time.
What are a couple of the lessons that you've shared with others and that you've taken away from those exchanges that help you at DHA, Jesus?
So one of them is, right now, is the utilization of the War Data Platform. Earlier this year, January as well, in alignment with the AI strategy, the department released an application or a platform used to call Advana, now the War Data Platform. That is the main exchange that now we're using to send data to the commanders out there, to the services, to the COCOMs. Is the War Data Platform, and that's something that the Pentagon CDAO is leading. And by using those capabilities, leveraging, we're able to reduce costs, improve efficiencies, and also deliver the data much faster.
I feel almost obligated, since it's in the Pentagon, to use an acronym and call it the WDP, but as you started to use the War Data Platform, what did you find was good and what did you find needed work about the data that you were feeding into it and about the data that was coming out of it that you were using from other organizations?
You know, it's all about governance and making sure we have the right data catalogs, the right information. Because, you know, while the War Data Platform, the Pentagon CDAO team is doing a fantastic job, there has connection to many, many systems. So people can go and say, what data Army's exposing there? What data do we have from the Navy? What data do we have from DHA? Understanding that for sure is a learning curve, but luckily the team in the Pentagon CDAO team, they're putting together an amazing job with data catalogs, enforcing data quality checks, enforcing those basic data checks. So then even if I'm not part of DHA, I can go and say what data DHA from health point of view is making visible to others to use.
We have about a minute left. You told me last time we talked that you're working on more than 400 use cases of AI inside DHA. What's the scope of those use cases?
Yes, sir. So in alignment with the OMB memos, we're required to do inventory of our AI. We just wrapped up the FY26 inventory for AI, and we got over 400 use cases. Anything from ambient listening that we're using, and we have over 30,000 providers already using it. This year alone, over 500,000 clinical notes have been written by using this ambient listening. All the way to readiness prediction models, models for mental health, chatbot for medical logistics. There are over 400 use cases, which shows that while we're maturing the data, also the organization as a whole is maturing in the AI and becoming an AI-first organization. However, an important part of becoming an AI-first organization is the workforce, meaning we can set the best technology out there, but technology alone will not transform an agency. It's the workforce. So we're doing a lot of work in trying to upskill, reskill, and provide the staff the material, the education that is needed to also, while we improve data, while we improve technology, we also improve offerings to upskill our staff.
I'd love to have you come back and talk about how you're doing that, Jesus. Thanks for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
You can find a link to the DHA data strategy on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, the never-ending effort to build an AI-literate workforce. FedGov Today continues in just a moment. FedGov Today, in partnership with EY, is bringing you a groundbreaking new docuseries that asks that profound question. You'll get a deep dive into 4 distinct scenarios for the year 2030: growth, transform, constraint, and collapse, to help public sector leaders navigate the coming waves of change. Don't be caught unprepared. Watch the full series today at forfutures.ai.
Innovation doesn't wait, and neither do we. At Maximus, we solve problems, streamlining operations, delivering solutions at speed and scale that drive measurable results. From strategy to execution, we simplify complexity, building trust through expertise and innovative technology. Every service, every time. Efficient government delivered. We don't follow innovation. We drive it. Maximus.
Welcome back. New employees at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency will take AI and data management training as part of the process of joining the agency now. The Associate Director for Operations at NGA, Rear Admiral Michael Baker, says current employees will get training too. Chris Wilson is Senior Federal Account Executive at Udemy. Chris, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. What's the nature of that training, and how is it evolving over time, given the way that the tools themselves are changing?
Sure. The approach that we're seeing now, obviously, when we talk about AI, there's such a big focus on AI literacy across the board. And as we kind of get into the tools, first and foremost, what's driving that effort, right? And we see a lot of directives out there, whether it's the White House AI Action Plan, the Pentagon AI Acceleration Strategy, most recently National Security Presidential Memo, and then your agency-specific plan. So that's really kind of laying the groundwork for this effort. The common thread with all of those plans is that each has a critical element built in that calls for the importance of AI literacy and fluency across the entire workforce in order for the goals set out in those plans to be executed properly. So that's kind of step one, and then from there we lead into the tools.
Yeah, the AI literacy concept strikes me. Is there a definition of that term right now, or is it kind of implied in each of these different documents what that document means, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so when we sit down first step with the customer in terms of the agencies that we work with, the first thing we need to do is define what it means to be AI literate as an organization. The good news is that there are plans out there, frameworks, both on the civilian side as well as the defense side, that provide agencies with some bedrock of what those behaviors, competencies, tasks are that really define what AI literacy is, especially in the federal space. So agencies can use that as a starting point to lay the groundwork for executing an AI strategy, and then from there build out from there to ensure that they're also addressing the more unique elements of AI within their respective organization.
You wrote recently about a concept that I think is really cool sounding, the half-life of AI skills, and you wrote the half-life of AI skills is only about 1 to 2 years compared to 8 to 10 for traditional soft skills. What does that mean, and what impact does that have on the way that people in government should think about how they're educating their people?
Yeah, absolutely. So a recent study came out saying the half-life of AI skills is only about 1 to 2 years compared to the 8 to 10 on the traditional soft skills. So what that means is that any AI literacy strategy that you execute within a workforce has to be reinforced continuously. So by the end of year 1, just to define what that half-life means, end of year 1, 50% of the skills that an employee has developed related to AI have already diminished. And so now they have to re-up that effort based on changes that have taken place with respect to AI, technology, et cetera, to ensure they're keeping up with the pace of technology and the pace of change. So it's not just about a one and done, check the box, let's get the AI training done and move on. It's how do we build a continuous process that ensures we're keeping up at the pace of change, especially at the pace in which our adversaries are.
You kind of alluded to my next question, which is it possible to build the structure of the training and learning without building the content, given the fact that we don't know necessarily what that content will need to look like and include in 6 months and a year and 2 years?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the structure also includes making sure that the training solution and initiative is aligned to key organization goals, specifically those that are outlined in maybe an AI strategy within the agency. Because at the end of the day, we want to understand whether the actual plan of execution worked and help the agency move the needle, whether it be driving better utilization of LLMs across the federal government that are available for use, as well as ensuring that we're hitting on AI goals that are set out at the agency level that are built into those AI strategic plans.
Are there questions, we have about a minute left, are there questions that the people at agencies are not asking you that you think they should, that you go away from these meetings and go, oh, they didn't even talk about this thing?
Yeah, I think one is a couple of questions. One is how do we address AI for those niche roles that kind of sit outside what we would consider traditional AI literacy topics? And that's a big element of the workforce, especially on the defense side, where we see a lot of specialized work roles, especially those that are in the blue collar arena. The other is we'd love to see more connection between the C-suite and the program level folks that have some more quantitative measurements that have been put in place, so we can understand again whether or not we've achieved success. You know, too often we've seen in training the focus beyond just utilization, but the bar is being raised, especially post-DOGE, where we're requiring organizations, especially the C-levels that have influence and sponsorship, they're wanting to see whether or not the training actually led to a change in behavior, improvement in skill proficiency, and a connection that improved the mission goals and outcomes.
Chris, thanks for being here. It's great to have you on the program.
Thanks for having
today.
me.
You can read more about everything we talked about on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, the NRC takes a big chunk out of one of its core functions. FedGov Today continues in just a moment.
Talking about billions of data records. And so we had to focus our technology on scaling out, scaling up in the cloud or on-prem and help them get billions instead of millions. You know, 20 years ago, it was 10 million. Now it's 10 billion. And so we really focused our innovation on speed of acquisition of data so that we could get to results.
A lot of customer experience leaders really, once they get into the role and once they understand, you know, their battle space, for lack of a better term, they quickly learn that communications is absolutely essential to delivering a positive customer experience or user experience and an employee experience too, because you can't have a world-class customer experience without a world-class employee experience.
Welcome back. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission's licensing review process is almost 2/3 shorter now than it was before. The NRC cut the review process from 4 years to 18 months by using a combination of AI tools and other cutting-edge technology. Caroline Carasoni is Chief AI Officer at the NRC. Caroline, welcome. It's great to have you on the program. How do you assess a problem and decide what the right combination of tools is to achieve success like you did with the review process?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I think it's a combination of both, right? So you talked about the technology and how we're bringing technology to accelerate our reviews, but there's been a lot of change also that's broader than that. So just stepping back very quickly, you know, you may not be aware, but the NRC recently went through a reorganization, the biggest reorganization of its kind since its inception. We also recently updated our mission statement to really adopt a more enabling mindset. So not just the technology, but really how we're encouraging our employees and our staff to think about solving problems has been huge. Specifically on the AI front, what we're doing is we're really trying to identify where are there high value but low risk use cases. Because as you can imagine in nuclear, we are different, right? We can't afford to have accidents, problems, challenges. Any setback in our industry is a setback for all. So we have to be very thoughtful and deliberate about its use.
How do you tag the reorg and the technology? What's the intersection of that look like in order to achieve the broader outcomes that you want for the agency?
Yeah, great question. So part of our reorganization was that we actually were very explicit in putting direct line of sight with decision makers. So that really does create a more efficient and expedient decision making process. But within that, right, you do have to watch out for potential silos and things like that. But within those segments of the NRC and those areas within our organization, we are able to develop and create the appropriate tools to facilitate and enhance the use. So for example, you talked about licensing. So we've actually worked with specific subject matter experts to identify how we can deploy tools to help with some of the general composition of the safety evaluations in our products. One of the key pieces, you hear this a lot, it's really about the human in the loop. And for us, it's much more than just the human in the loop. The human is at the beginning, throughout the process, and really bookends the end as well. So our technical experts have to be included, they have to be involved in every step of the process. They own the decision making, they own the data, and they own the outcomes of each of our products.
Whether it's specific to the licensing review process or more broadly looking at the reorg or just the general operations, as you apply these tools and you do things like the licensing process changes, how much of that is evaluating the business process that the agency goes through and determining, do we need to change that also, or do we just need to modernize it?
That's a great question. So I think a combination of both, right? There are some areas where we've had a pretty established mechanism of executing the process and it works well, and we really just need to refine it. There are some areas where we are fundamentally looking at doing things differently. So on the flip side, we talked about licensing. We're looking at our oversight process, our inspection program, looking at ways to better gather data, aggregate information, help us identify where there are specific areas that we need to focus in on to apply maybe more regulatory rigor. So there's areas where we've learned now, hey, this isn't an area that's really safety significant. Like, how do we be more risk informed about where we're applying our resources so that we can take a step back? And so there are examples like that where we are fundamentally looking at what we used to do and changing it, and then some other areas where it's pretty streamlined and we're really just refining it.
I take your point that you made earlier about appetite for risk at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, but are there areas where you can, maybe in testing or piloting AI use cases, where you can take a little bit of risk that's internally focused and just try things out, experiment a little bit?
Yeah, so where we're really seeing, again, this goes to the high risk areas that we have to be conscientious of, but in some areas, right, we do think that there is really an opportunity for increased productivity. So those areas are things that we're doing already. So if you think about what products and the types of reviews we do, where we can use it for generating that initial composition so that our technical experts can spend less time doing the more repetitive administrative work, but really focus in more deeply in the technical aspects. And I think one of the things that we're focused on is really AI literacy, training, adoption. And I think a lot of our folks, right, do think about like, hey, what does AI look like for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission? Is suddenly this AI generated product going to supersede or take over the technical judgment, engineering judgment that we have? And I think the answer to that is absolutely not, because in an AI-enabled future, we actually need our technical experts more than before, because we need the people who understand the science, who ask the hard questions, who maybe recognize that, something doesn't make sense here, right? Those people who are able to apply that sound engineering judgment become more important than they are today even.
Do you have the issue that other folks at other agencies have told me about, which is people come and say, I want to use AI on this thing, but it might not be the right fit for an AI application? I have to tell them that's not really, we're not going to go there yet?
Yeah, so I think a combination of a couple things. I think you are aware of the administration's expectation that agencies come and identify use cases. And so when we did that across the agency, it provided us with a good opportunity, because what we found was a lot of what people were saying were AI-ready opportunities really weren't, right? Maybe they were opportunities to automate a repetitive task, get better data use, right? Like those types of increased or automated workflows. It was more that kind of work than necessarily AI. So what we've been thinking about, we have a scale approach within the agency, and it's really about thoughtful implementation, because again, as you mentioned, our risk tolerance has to be metered to the level of risk of what it is that we're doing and our ability to maintain public confidence. So we don't really measure it as like how many use cases do we deploy. We really measure our AI success around what outcomes can we improve, and can we do that while maintaining public confidence.
We just have a couple of minutes left, but you said something that sparked a thought in my mind. A chief AI officer in the government told me recently that they're actually doing more RPA applications than they have over the last several years for exactly that reason that you just described. People come and say, I want to use AI to solve this problem, and it's actually more of an automation issue than it is using something generative.
Yeah, I think that's consistent. We're seeing that also. And I think, it's helpful to really understand what the problems are so that we can figure out the best solution from an enterprise architecture perspective. Because I think one of the challenges that I hear across the federal sector with all the other chief AI officers also is to really understand, not just AI in terms of the value that it can provide, but what's the long-term economics of sustaining it, right? Because there is uncertainty with what that looks like. So I think that that's a big focus area for federal government at large, and I think NRC is no different.
We have less than a minute left. You mentioned the workforce. What are you doing to ensure AI literacy for the people that really need to have it right now?
Yeah, so we're doing a combination. We actually have a lot of tools available for people to experiment right now. I know agencies are kind of on the spectrum. Some agencies are leaned in more. Some agencies are, really taking a more metered approach and not allowing staff to use it. We believe that it is important, though, to lean in. I think it's really critical that whether or not you are an enthusiast or you're a skeptic of AI, as a knowledge organization, we have to understand how people are using the AI, and we need to understand to identify both its promise and its limitations. So we are really leaning in. We're letting people use it. It's helping us identify where there's possibility to invest more in the future, because we can't sustain an ecosystem with a bunch of different tools. We do have self-led learning. We're bringing people in. So whether you're a new employee or a senior leader across the agency, there's expectations. We've even developed measurement and metrics around expectations around learning and AI adoption training. And so all of those things will continue to be a journey as we focus on becoming a continuously learning organization.
It's great to have you here, Caroline. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
You can read more about the reorg and AI at the NRC on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. FedGov Today continues in just a moment.
For the federal government, fiscal year 2027 is going to be kind of the age of inference, and especially inference at the edge. So Soft Week is going on this week down in Tampa, and so there's a lot of folks down there. And being able to support the warfighter at the speed of war, I think is going to be one of the bigger challenges that the industry is going to have to help solve. And there's a good chunk of folks that are really working hard on that project.
Absolutely shoot your token costs through the roof, right? And so you're seeing that over and over again, that organizations are coming back and saying, my token budget is now exceeding the money I saved by getting rid of human employees in favor of AI. And so now I'm not only am I spending less, I'm spending more.
Welcome back. 17th Annual Billington Cybersecurity Summit is coming September 8th through 10th at the Washington Convention Center. You can read more about it, look at the lineup so far, and sign up at fedgovtoday.com/events. FedGov Today TV returns next Sunday morning at 10. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.